Hola estudiantes, este es el tema 8.3, las comparaciones. En español y en inglés usamos comparaciones. We use comparisons between English and Spanish just to describe something and to provide information of an item or person or a place and compare it to another one and provide information if something is of lesser, equal, or greater degree of quality. So we're going to say that something is beautiful, or something is big, or something is useful, and we are going to compare as beautiful as this or as useful as this other thing, right? So that is the aim of this unit, is to learn how to say that something is equal, greater, or of a lesser quality. So you can see that these three situations, we are going to find them over here. Saying menos interesante, this we are going to discuss the lesser quality. Más grande, this is greater degree of quality. And finally, tan como, tan sabroso como, as delicious as this other cake, for example, right? So in this case, we do have a comparison of equality. So in the first two, we do have inequality because this is of lesser value or lesser, quality, better quality or greater value. And over here, this is a comparison of equality. So we can see that coming up as well. Okay, so we have those three main concepts. Okay, so we're going to compare. This first side is going to be less, and in Spanish we're going to use the word menos. Greater degree, we're going to use más or more. And equality, tan como, or in English it would be something as meaning as, smart as big as, and so on. So we are going to use the inequality comparisons first. And in this case, we are going to use the word más, which means more, or the word menos, which means less. And these are going to go before adjectives, adverbs, and nouns, okay? After that, we are also going to need the word que. That means than, okay? So over here, we are going to say more attractive than or more intelligent than, and that situation, very similar to English. So we have the word more or less, the adjective, adverb, or noun, plus the word que, that is going to be the equivalent to than in English. So just to make it a little bit easier for you, I made a list of adjectives, adjetivos, adverbs, adverbios, and sustantivos, nouns. And we are going to plug them in here, right? For example, más alto que, taller than. Now pay attention here. In Spanish, this is the only way that we do comparisons. In English, you can say more elegant than, or more comfortable than, more expensive than, and we also have a different form for short adjectives. For example, taller than, or faster than, or quicker than. That form does not exist in Spanish. We are only going to use this form. So I think that it is going to be quite simple, since we only have to plug in the word más or menos, depending on what you want to say, then the adjective, adverb, or noun without any modifications, and then the word que or than. So you can say más alto que, menos inteligente que, más elegante que, menos atractivo que. Okay? So if we put that in a sentence, we can say, mi hermano es, my brother is, mi hermano es más alto que yo. My brother is taller than me. Inteligente. Mi perro es, my dog is, más inteligente que mi gato. My dog is more intelligent than my cat. Let's go look at an adverb, okay? Adverbs are going to go along verbs whenever you want to say the form or how did you perform that action. Adjectives usually modify or describe nouns. Adverbs describe or provide a characteristic of the action. For example, yo estudio muy rápido. I am a fast learner and like I just browse once my notes and I'm good to go. So you can also say yo aprendo. In this case, I'm going to use the verb aprender, which means to learn. Yo aprendo más rápido que tú. I learn faster than you, or I study faster than you. I'm a quick learner, right? Another thing, and we are describing the way that I study or the way that I learn. We're not describing a noun, we're describing the action or a verb. That's why they are called adverbios or adverbs. Okay, let's go with the second one. Let's say that we're talking about walking, okay? My sister walks slower than my mom. Mi hermana camina más rápido que mi madre. Okay? Más rápido que mi madre. So that's another example that we can throw in there. My sister walks faster than my mom. So in here, it is very important that you guys pay attention to the form and the structure that we're going to follow to do comparisons because they are not going to match the forms that we use in English. For example, I told you that we are not going to have such comparisons as faster or quicker in the sense that we are not going to modify the word. We're only going to do the comparisons by saying more or less, okay? Now we go to sustantivos. Sustantivos, those are nouns. So what about I want to say that I have more books than you do? Yo tengo más libros que tú. So we're still going to follow continue using the same structure, okay? So in here we can use más or menos based on whatever we want to say, and then an adjective, an adverb, or a noun, plus the word que to do comparisons. Adjectives, just to recap, adjectives modify or describe or provide a characteristic of a noun. Adverbs provide a characteristic or describe a verb or the way that an action is done. And finally, nouns are all things that we know that are items. They are not actions, they are items. For example, books or shoes or clothes or a door, a window, food, and stuff, right? So those are sustantivos or nouns. So we have some adjectives, adverbs, and nouns over here in a sentence. So pay attention to these examples, okay? So then again, if you look over here, we are not going to have that situation like, for example, taller, where you only add er to the comparison. We don't have that same structure in Spanish. So we are only able to say more elegant or more intelligent or more tall than And it's still sounding good because in Spanish it makes total sense. So let's look at the examples over here. Los bistecs son más caros que el pollo. The steaks are more expensive than chicken, right? Más caros que. So we follow the structure. Más, and then the adjective, and then the word que. Another example. Estas uvas son menos ricas que esa pera. These grapes are less tasty than the pear. Okay, so in this case we say menos. Más, menos. Caros, my adjective. Ricas, my adjective. And the word que, that in English means than. In here, more expensive than, less tasty than. Adverbs. Me acuesto más tarde que tú. This is going to modify an action. I go to bed more late than you. So if we want to translate, this is going to be the literal translation. Of course, we have to modify because that's not the way that we use it in English, but literally it would say something like more late than you. Okay? Same structure. Luis se despierta menos temprano que yo. Same thing over here. Luis wakes up less early than I do. Okay? So then again, you have to adjust, whenever you listen to these because they are not going to be they're not going to sound correctly if you think of English, but of course we're talking about Spanish, so it does make sense. And finally, we have Juan prepara más platos que José. Juan prepares more dishes than José. We're using nouns over here. And Susana come menos carne que Enrique. Susana eats less meat than Enrique. And here we are using nouns. So we have two examples over here. La ensalada es menos cara que la sopa, less expensive than. El pollo es más rico que el jamón. The chicken is it tastier than ham, or in this case, literally would be more tasty than. Of course, we have to adjust when we translate to make sense or to sound correct in English. We also have some constructions to make comparisons of inequality, right? Like we said, whenever we talk about a verb, whenever we want to say that I study more than you, that you eat more than me, that you run more than I do, that you exercise less than I do, or, these subjects can change. In this case, the verb is going to be in front of the word más or menos que. So watch for that change whenever we're talking about a verb, not adverb, not adjective, not noun, but a verb that is going to go in front of the word más or menos que. Look at these examples. Mis hermanos comen más que yo. My brothers eat more than I do. Arturo duerme menos que su padre. Arturo sleeps less than his father does. So make sure to take notes and save those examples. We also have equality. In the beginning, we were talking about inequality, and now we're talking about equality. And we are going to say tan como or tantos como. So in this case, we are going to have over here an adjective or a verb, tan, adjective or verb, como, or tanto, tanta, tantos or tantas, como, and a noun, okay? In here, we're going to use a singular or a plural noun. Let's look at some examples. Tu almuerzo es tan grande. Comes tanto. Comes tantas manzanas. Preparan tantos platos. So we are going to use those comparisons as well with verbs, and you're going to follow the structure that we can see in this slide. And we have some final examples over here. Sabemos tanto como ustedes, no estudio tanto como Felipe.